Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Bashem Yahushua, Bashem Harakakadash, double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Mill Son that rule well, and Shalom to all the brothers doing the work of sincere truth. Yeah, I saw this article and I thought it's timely because it really shows how that state of Israel is really going to be the focal point of focus, for interest in the Middle East. Because the two main things is what? The Iran nuclear deal and the basically, state of Israel expanding into, like Gaza and nearby regions. And then, what's going down in there with, peoples getting thinned out, which, gets exposed. Then everyone just kind of like twiddles their thumbs and kind of looks around and thingies that, and just says, well, I don't know if I will, But then what you have getting focused on here? It says on Ynet News. It says a new skyline for an ancient city. Jerusalem is rising literally. And then they got the renders of what they're looking to build up within Jerusalem, which lines up with what Trump was saying little after he got in about making it into a tourist attraction, a focal point of the Middle East, where it will then start being some glorious modern buildings and whatnot. Which all those buildings you see in the render, it's going against the scriptures, which shows these guys don't know how they're meant to function in the land, which is why they got bounced in there from 1948, and then it's been however long, still till now, like it's nothing but issues in there. So it says Jerusalem is on the brink of a dramatic transformation. Developers are racing to reshape the city with hundreds of new towers, light rail lines, and mixed-use districts. But can this ancient capital city absorb such massive change, with urban renewal to skyline redefinition? The future of Jerusalem is unfolding faster than most expected. And yeah, with what was the term? Light rail lines, mixed-use districts, hundreds of new towers. What was it? No, there was a point I was gonna say with it where no with oh yeah, no, acknowledging Jerusalem as a capital was done by Trump. Trump did that in his prior term. So, him now pouncing on it and then, giving them arm, giving them strength to push forward won't be a surprise. So it says every city or town is its own world, a microcosm of life, residents, education, infrastructure, and of course real estate. Sometimes a city's development can impact an entire region. Other times urban growth and renewal reshape the demographic makeup and determine a locality's future for decades to come. Even basic real estate decisions, whether to buy or rent, where and when to make a move, depend on deep data about a city or town. That's exactly why we're launching a special series of reports on urban and real estate development of cities across Israel, and what place, a better place to start than the capital, Jerusalem. So yeah, developing the Middle East up, trying to make it that draw. And the thing for this is this is like trying to get global monetary interest drawn in. And then when you get the monetary interest drawn in, then what people are gonna be looking to protect their investment. Gosh darn. So it says, according to data from Israel's Central Bureau of Statistics, the past January saw a nationwide 1.2% increase in home prices. Compared to the previous month, the Jerusalem district recorded an even sharper rise, with a 3% increase, well above the national average. On an annual scale, CBS reported a 7.7% rise in Israel's housing price index, while Jerusalem's yearly increase was slightly more modest at 5.6%. The highest annual jump was recorded in Tel Aviv exceeding 10%. Jerusalem's price surge is accompanied by another major trend in recent years, a boom in urban renewal projects, and notable uptick in building permits in this field. So it's all about money and investments, and drawing people in. Because as far as these, and that's the thing is, people are interested in what their gain. They're thinking about, oh, what am I gonna get out of this? And the thing is as well is they're not trying to be the holy people. They're not trying to, establish, righteousness, follow the laws of the scriptures and whatnot within there. What they're establishing is of the world. These are all things that, it's of the world. You go to America, you go to Europe, you go to Hong Kong, you go to Tokyo, you go to Beijing. All these things, you're like, okay, oh, how much can we return on investment? How much, they're thinking about, the monetary feedback of how these things are going to hit them. And that's really, what is, bloody hell. Oh, good. So, let me skip down a bit. So it says, Sedan also comments on the change in profile of home buyers in Jerusalem, noting a shift in recent years. The nature of demand has changed in recent years due to the war and rising anti-Semitism around the world. Foreign residents who have always been a key target audience in Jerusalem are now looking more for permanent family homes rather than vacation apartments or luxury investments. We're seeing this clearly in the Eden project we're developing in the city centre, which had drawn strong interest from members of the Jewish diaspora, especially from the US, particularly New York and Miami, France and the UK. They say that what attracted them most is the history, heritage, and sanctity of Jerusalem as the eternal capital of the Jewish people. And it's funny because, they're saying all that, but that, these guys are not conducting themselves in any manner as the people. They're not thinking about the prophecies. They're not thinking about the times. And as far as even being in the land, it's the means by which they got the land. It's like you just have to think like, oh, wasn't it in, wasn't there prophecies that lined up a certain way? Wasn't this meant to take? But then, all of that is just not a detail at all. As far as their role within the land, it's an extension of, the British Empire, and then following after the British Empire, and then following after the American Empire as well. And they're as far as, and what do they say? It's like vacation homes and whatnot. They go in there, they're just thinking about, it's good weather, it's good this, get a break away from blah 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 and get to enjoy. They're looking at as is some kind of system or means by which they can they can just enjoy their life, and their life according to the tenets and how this world is, they live in this world. And that's the thing is when you go to the actual Israel, the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans, which are the true Israelites, and how they also fell away and then just made themselves as heathen, mixed themselves among the Egyptians, the Greeks, the Babylonians, all these different nations where you would have had Jake just go among them and then just be dealing with them and amongst them like they are those same heathens. That's not new. But then, as far as for now, that's now in the end times. We've been in the end times from 2,000 years ago. So it's something where you should kind of like look at and be like, okay, what's the state Israel's meant to be in? And then, these guys are in the land, but then it's like to get in the land, how's the means by how you're meant to do that? It's meant to be, through how prophecy pieced that together. And then that really, comes to fullness with what? But, salvation, man. Being delivered. Because otherwise, what? How you just go up in there, then you end up like these guys, man, where they're up to their fucking neck in problems. Nothing but hell, left, right, and center happening, because why? They're they're in the land, not conducting themselves correctly. Let me see if there's a bit more. I think it's just saying like, hey, come here and invest, blah blah blah. But in Costa Rica project, so it's like they're just trying to make a Western something appealing to the West as a a vacation spot. They're trying. It's like a Dubai, a Qatar, one of those like spots you can go to where it's meant to be like here in the West, but then things are cheaper, the currency's better, the weather's better. It's like one of those kind of appeals that people are in their 40s be like, okay, save up, move over there, and then kind of live good. So these guys are just a aspect of the world, and that's what they're looking to expand to within the land of Israel. Continue further and build that up. But I'll read this, 2 Kings 17:24. It says what? Even you go to the little subtitle, it says what? Cities of Israel filled with strangers. Because, it's not anything new for strangers to be up in Israel. That's something that happened a while back. And then even, you go to, was it Matthew 24? The heathen, treading upon, the temple, the heathen essentially being in the land, man. And you had it from, Salahadin and the Arab man, them, the Muslim man, them up in there. And then you've had these guys now come up, and then they've been contending for it. But it's as far as when when you're dealing with the land, you then go into the scripture and see like, okay, what's going on. So 2 Kings 17:24, it says, and the king of Assyria brought men from Babylon and from Kutta and from Avar and from Hamath and from Sepharvaim, and placed them in the cities of Samaria instead of the children of Israel. And they possessed Samaria and dwelt in the cities thereof. And this is why you have, you go to the time in Yahushua, why there's different conduct for how the Samaritans are meant to be dealt with. Because why? The people in there, they're not the same. That's why, the woman getting cursed out, getting told, we know what, what is it? We know who our fathers are. We know who our I think it's our fathers are for what salvation of the Jews. Because it's as far as I think I'm misquoting it. Because why? With that heritage, they'd been living there, they've been following the customs, and this is gonna go into why they're following the customs for those various generations. But because of that, they thought, oh, they had a piece, they had a portion within the inheritance, within the promises. But that, just because you're following after the customs, that don't mean that in the kingdom everyone's going to be following after the customs. But then that doesn't mean they're then going to receive the same portion as what Israel's got. And then even if you call yourself Israel, that don't mean that you're then just going to get a portion. Because what does it say? And dwelt in the cities thereof. And so it was the beginning of their dwelling there, that they feared not the Lord Yahweh. Therefore the Lord Yahweh sent lions among them, which slew some of them. So yeah, they were in the land, they were in the Holy Land. They'd basically been sanctified and set up and established for his people. And then they were dealing with their usual funk, where the heathen get down with all kind of madness. They might have been marrying their mothers. They might have been eating all kinds of creepy, crawly things. They might have been doing honor and sacrifices onto idols, doing all kinds of madness, to as to where the law was like, now we can't have that funk going on in the land. And then what, lions were sent upon them, and then they were judged. But then it says, what? Wherefore they spake to the king of Assyria, saying, the nations which thou hast removed and placed in the cities of Samaria know not the manner of the power of the land. Therefore he sent lions among them, and behold, they slay them, because they know not the manner of the power of the land. Yeah. So the Yeah, they know not the manner of the power of this land. And that's the thing is, since Israel's been established there, says what? It's, that's basically held sway. Because even with Israel, when they're not on point, they're not exempt. They're still accounted for with receiving those judgments. Even when it's like the heathen don't take judge against them, and it'll be like with when David numbers Israel, then the angel gets sent, and it's like, well, the offer was given, like, you want to flee before your enemies, or do you want to have the famine, I think it was, or do you want to have, the angel come down with force? Roughly paraphrasing, I'd have to go to it to remember the exact details, and then it chose for the angel to lay into them, and then Israel was getting absolutely decimated. But why? So as far as for Israel to get chastised, the heathen don't need to step in. But then you go into the Esau, especially for him, he's top of the list as far as inserting himself into them judgments that go down on Israel, and then do it far exceeding what needs to be done, man. As far as for Yahweh Shemi Asher Bashim Harakadash, laying judgments on Israel. He goes above and beyond what's necessary. But then it says what, verse 27, then the king of Assyria commanded, saying, carry thither one of the priests whom ye brought from thence, and let them go and dwell there, and let him teach the manner of the power of the land. Then one of the priests came, they had carried away, whom they had carried from Samaria came and dwelt in Bethel, and taught them how they should fear the Lord Yahweh. So one priest taught all, them jumbled up heathens. And then what? It says, howbeit every nation made gods of their own, and put them in their houses of the high places, which the Samaritans had made every nation in their cities wherein they dwelt. So yeah, they were dealing with those idols. They had the idols all up and about, and that would have had to get snuffed out. And the men of Babylon made Succoth Benoth, and the men of Cuth made Nergal, and the men of Hamath made Ashima, and the Avites made Nebuz and Tarkak, and the Sepharvites burnt their children in the fire to Adremelech and Anamelech, and gods of Sepharvim. So yeah, these men were sacrificing Utim on the land, thinking they were going to receive some benefit. They'll, those idols are going to give them some good, not realizing the true power, the one that's not an idol, was there, and then they're disrespected. So lions running up on them and mauling them. Them guys might be just go out, be in the field, plant it, sow in some vines. Was it some olives? They might be sowing some olives. Then lion just the guy's arms gets found, and a huge his organs, an arm, a lung, his neck and his head's there, just and the lion's just taking a chunk out of him, and they just be like, damn, what the hell's going on? Because why? These guys are honoring complete heathens. So it says, so they feared the Lord Yahweh, and made unto themselves of the lowest of them priests of the high places, which sacrificed for them in the houses of the high places. They feared the Lord Yahweh, and served their own good powers, after the manner of the nations whom they carried away from thence. Unto this day they do after the former manners. They fear not the Lord Yahweh, neither do they after their statutes, after their ordinances, after the law and commandments which the Lord Yahweh commanded the children of Jacob, whom he named Israel, with whom the Lord Yahweh made a covenant, and charged them, saying, ye shall not fear other gods, nor bow yourselves to them, nor serve them, nor sacrifice to them. Yeah, so it was the covenant was made with Israel, but then as far as for them to conduct themselves in the land, then they would have to follow after. So it says what? So these nations, skip down a bit. It says, so these nations feared the Lord Yahweh, and served their graven images, both their children and their children's children, as did their fathers, so do they unto this day. So yeah, they were taught the customs, they followed after it. And then through the process of time, these guys really thought they were the holy people. But then really, you know, the key of it is if you're going to be in the land, there's a certain way you're meant to conduct yourself. There's a certain expectation of you know, what your role is in the land, how you're going to fulfill it and deal with the land. And these guys have not followed after or dealt with that shit in the slightest. They've gone even further beyond, moving away from how they're meant to conduct themselves in the land. And that's why, you know, they've received nothing but hell from when they got in there. So read this, Zechariah 9:6. And a bastard shall dwell in Ashdod, and I will cut off the pride of the Philistines. So yeah, you can have a bastard, you know, someone not from the correct line inside there in Ashdod, doing a full madness. And that's, you know, been fulfilled. And that's why it's like, you know, you go to the scriptures, you be like, oh, okay, hold on, there's a whole bunch of details here missing on how and you know, the means by which these guys are meant to get in the land. It says what? Jeremiah 49:20. Therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord Jehovah that you've taken against Edom, and his purposes that you purpose against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. And yeah, the least of the flock. That's what you're having with, you know, these guys in the land. Their conduct, how they're maneuvering, is drawing all that focus into that land. And then even with monetary interests, military interests, resource interests in that land, then what would you get? Everyone out there wanting to bomb a ass clot, you know, get stuck in. And, you know, you have the lines being drawn with, you know, finance, trade, and then those things can easily escalate to full-on military conflict. But yeah, you know, that's what we're gonna see. Because they're, you know, they're moving with that pride, what they're looking to establish, completely dishonoring what they're meant to do, and then it's prophecy as well. That spot has a role to fulfill, man. The people's there drawing in that conflict, man. Iran the same. That land drawing in those conflicts. But yeah, I'll leave it there. Shalom.